Hi, everyone, and welcome to Let's Get Visible, a podcast for business owners helping them to grow, have a sustainable business, and get more visibility online. I'm Dawes Brown, and I'll be bringing you SEO and digital marketing tips, as well as interviews and conversations with other business owners. So, let's get started. On the podcast today, I'm joined by Mark Schiralli. He's a business growth mentor and the founder of Own Your Mark. He is on a mission to help business owners get their dreams off the ground, put all of the fundamentals in place, and then continue to build towards their business goals, whatever they may be. Mark is also a chartered accountant who has a background in marketing and sales, working across a multitude of industries in Sydney, London, and New York. He loves working with business owners who have skin in the game, helping them to achieve their dreams, whether that be spending more time with their families, achieving financial independence, or simply sharing their amazing work with the world. So let's welcome to the Let's Get Visible podcast, Mark. Yay!
Hey. Thanks, Doreen. Really be on, and we've talked about doing this for a little while. I'm really excited to be on here with you.
Awesome. We sure have. But it was probably 12 months in the making. So very excited that we could finally align our schedules and time and join up and do this podcast episode today, which is awesome. Now, let's begin, I guess, at the beginning. And in the introduction, I mentioned that you are a business growth mentor and also the founder of Own Your Mark, which, by the way, I love your business name. Can I just say, every time I see it, there's just something about it that really says what it is. What was the tipping point for you, having had that background as a chartered accountant and doing all sorts of other things in your career? What really was the tipping point that made you decide to launch Own Your Mark? How did it all begin?
Yeah, look, it's a bit of an interesting one. I always had a bit of a mixed background, and whilst I got into chartered accounting straight out of school, I went in and left high school like most people, not knowing what I wanted to do with life. And one of my best mates was going for interviews with accounting firms, and I thought, oh well, I might as well do the same just for interview experience. And I got offered a cadetship in an accounting firm, so I thought, oh, why not? If I don't like it, I'll just leave. And so I started that, which was full-time working in an accounting firm and part-time doing my business degree. And it was tough going in the early days. It was learning a lot of the fundamentals, but you go from high school where you knock off at 3 o'clock each day to trying to stay awake at your desk at 5 o'clock at the end of the day, and then go to uni in the night. And it was a really good base for me to learn a lot of the fundamentals of business and how to ensure that you offer a professional service offering to your clients. I learned a lot on the technical accounting side of things, and the amazing thing was it then led me on to studying my chartered accounting qualification, and then that in turn led me off to London and New York and had some amazing experiences with that. And so all the way along, I'd had this feeling of, I'm doing accounting, but is that truly where I'm passionate? And I started to look at a lot of other options along the way. I started independently studying graphic design because I was really passionate about that. I've always had a bit of a creative mind, and I did a lot of writing. More so in the basketball field, because it's something I'm very passionate about, basketball.
Yeah.
So I've written for the National Basketball League, the Sydney Kings, and I even got sent off to Turkey to cover the World Championships some years back with FIBA. So I've always been very big on that side of things. So that the writing, the creative, but meanwhile I was doing this much more other side of the brain thing in my accounting role by day. And so all along the way, always was questioning which way do I want to take my career. And before you know it, when I eventually moved back to Sydney, I was working for a big company, Vodafone. And during the course of that, someone identified from the finance side that maybe you could be good in sales and marketing side of things. And so I made that switch, which I felt was, okay, that's great. I can explore something on the other side of things. And I I really enjoyed that change, and it gave me a lot of great experiences to see some things on the flip side of business, because when we sit in one chair, we tend to have our viewpoints from one perspective and we fail to see things from someone else's shoes. And so
Agree.
suddenly I was the one asking the finance guys for approval on pricing and things and from a sales perspective,
Right.
and you learn things from a different angle. But so anyway, that went along for a while, and the whole time I'm still thinking, oh, I've got all these accounting skills that I'm not using anymore. And geez, that's a bit of a waste. What should I be doing with that? And I came to the realization that at some point, well, maybe I need to see how I can bring all those skills together into one place. And the thing that I found in the end was, okay, why don't I look for a role that gives me both the finance and the accounting in one, and sorry, the finance and the marketing all in one place. And I couldn't find that suitable role for me. It was just really hard. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I need to start offering this to clients independently. And it all actually started, I was sitting underneath a bench press with my trainer at the gym. And
Yeah.
he came to me and said, oh, look, I'm thinking about getting away from this gym and going and starting my own gym with a partner. And I said, oh,
Yeah.
have you done this? Have you done that? Have you done all these things? And he's like, no. Oh, can you help me with that? And within 24 hours, I set up a website, set up a business, and said, yep, I'm going to offer you these mentoring services to help you get your business started up. And I'm really happy that 4 years plus later, their gym is thriving and they're doing really well. They were my first client. And I started to accumulate a few clients quite quickly, and then went out on my own offering that service, started up Own Your Mark, offering a range of different services to help people get their business running. So that's how it
Awesome.
started.
What a background. And a common theme whenever I do the podcast interviews is that we never necessarily woke up with the intention of running our own business. It's usually after many, many years of working in corporate and learning all of these different skills that we can then transfer to running our own business. But it's never really been, with everyone that I've interviewed, they've not just woken up and gone, yes, absolutely, this is what I need to do as soon as I leave high school. And it could be a generational thing. I think we're from a similar generation and age group. And it could be different with the younger demographic, but for people certainly in their 40s and 50s, it's one of those things where they've tried and tested all these different things, but as you said, can't really find that role that combines the creative with the analytical. And so in those situations, you really then have to go it on your own. But with your brand name, again, circling back to this because I'm just staring at it, how did you come up with that concept? Like, how did that come to life?
that was one of these big brainstorming sessions that I do with my wife. She's got a similar background to me. So she's a CPA, she's an accountant by training, but she's also got a design qualification. And we're both very left brain, right brain, and we have a lot of similarities in that we like the creative side of things, but we've also quite based in what's commercially viable and how do we make the numbers work on things. So we go through these brainstorming sessions where we talk about, okay, how can this make sense from it having a creative bent to it, but also meaning something, and obviously caught on to the name Mark, which is what came into it, but it's a bit of a double entendre with the whole thing of people owning their brand, owning their business, owning their IP, owning their destiny and their passion. And so that's what Own Your Mark is all about, is helping people to turn their passion or their hobby or their side hustle into a profitable and fulfilling business and into the business that they want it to be. Yeah, that's where the name came from.
That's great. And can I say, when I hear those words, that's exactly the image that I get from it. It's about owning your mark, owning your position, owning your IP, all those things that you've just mentioned, really out of 3 words. Isn't it just amazing? I sometimes sit back and think, wow, words just have so much power. And if you use them the right way and in context, that your message can be delivered in 3 tiny words, which I think you do really, really well. Yeah.
That's great.
Awesome job with that. And you've mentioned your genius. So having those 2 parts of your brain and really being able to assist people when they're at that point themselves. So they're probably working as an employee and they're thinking, you know what, I'm thinking about taking a step to the right and really doing this for myself. So when it comes to your genius and how you best help and serve your clients and your customers, can you tell us just a little bit about the process and what maybe one of those, workshop sessions or mentoring sessions would entail and involve?
Yeah, sure. So I think for most people, I work with a lot of people who might have worked maybe 15, 20 years in some type of industry, and they've worked for other people and they feel like they're really good at something. They've got some skill sets they're really good at, or they've got some passions, and it may be even something that is not exactly what they're doing at the moment, but they feel like they can take the skill set they've been doing for other people for a long time and add it with some other area of passion of theirs and create a business out of it. But the issue is they know that thing in the middle, they know that skill set, but they don't know all the things that go around it. They don't know the front end and the back end. How do they promote themselves? How do they brand themselves? How do they sell? And also on the back end, how do they do the admin? How do they get set up and registered? And how do they make sure that their bookkeeping is all in line, and they're complying with everything they need to? So that's where I help people to turn that area of genius of theirs into a fully fledged business. And that comes through, yes, as you mentioned, mentoring sessions. And my flagship program is called the Tipping Point Mentoring Program. And that's actually, it's interesting you use that word, tipping point. Yeah. And that's a 6-month program. And that's where we work together, have meetings on a fortnightly basis. And in between, there's different homework and things to do along the way. And we build up from that area of passion and your idea, and build up through all of the core pillars involved in establishing a successful business. Now, where we start from is what I term the key to all of these. So I've got 4 key pillars, but there's a key in the middle, and that key is mindset. And that's the thing that I think for so many people, they leave that bit neglected in starting up a business. They think, okay, I've registered an ABN, I've got a Facebook page, I've got an
Instagram page. It's going to flourish.
That's right. I'm all good. Let's go. But they've actually forgotten some of the key mindset pieces. And just to mention a couple of them, really, one of them is money mindset. A lot of people are allergic to their numbers, and they find numbers scary, and they just don't want to even touch it. And they think, oh, because I don't like it, I don't want to go anywhere near it. Now, I absolutely tell people that you should be outsourcing things that you don't enjoy, aren't good at, or don't have the time for, because you want to focus on what you're good at. But you still need to understand it a little bit, enough to be dangerous. And when it comes to your numbers as an entrepreneur, I think it's your absolute responsibility to understand your numbers at a high level. And that means getting someone to do the legwork for you and do the bookkeeping, do the tax, all those things, but still understanding at a high level where the numbers are headed, what direction they're going in, because cash flow is the lifeblood of a small business. And if you don't get that right, soon you run out of that oxygen, and your business falls over. And so it's really important. It is your responsibility to understand that. So that's that money mindset. Then you talk about other mindset. One of the really big one, I think, that a lot of people fail on when they're starting business is understanding your customer or client. So really knowing what they want and who they are, the language they speak, rather than just who you are and what you want. And so a lot of people fail on that when they come about with their branding and their logo and all these things.
Websites.
They do it all. Website, exactly. You see it all the time.
I do.
They don't do it from the perspective of speaking the language of their customer or client. They do it from the perspective of, I'm amazing, I've been doing this for 20 years, I can do this for you, I can do that for you, rather than speaking the language of, this is what the pain you're experiencing, these are the fears you have, this is the need you have, and this is how I can fulfill it for you. And speaking in the language that they speak, it's really important. And it's
a craft, isn't it? It's not, it's not as simple as you said, just putting some words on a website and adding a logo and going, voila, we've got, Facebook and Instagram and ready to rock and roll. There's so many other factors that you really need to consider. And it's when you get to that point, people go, oh, this is a little bit harder than what I first thought. But for it to be successful, you do need to be working through those pillars. So there is the money mindset, and then it's also, to do with your messaging. And you mentioned there's something else that you work on with that as well.
Yeah. So in terms of mindset, some of the other mindset factors are sales. So that sales mindset, so many people find sales to be sleazy or icky. They just really struggle with the idea of selling themselves. And so I try to talk people through the idea of realizing that if you're proud of what you actually offer and provide as a service or a product, then you need to think about, okay, what is this actually doing to improve other people's lives? Because presumably we're offering this service or product because we really feel like it's going to be amazing. Other people are going to love it in the same way you do, and you want to get it out there and get it into their hands or to change their lives for the better. So consequently, if you feel that's the case and you are proud of it, you should feel like you want to go and sell it to people, because you're actually holding something back from their lives by not putting it in their hands. You're missing out on an opportunity to improve their lives and unlock things for them through what you can give them. And so you shouldn't feel sleazy about selling, because to the contrary, by holding it back, you're actually doing a detriment to people.
And I really like that point. And it's a key point, because I think if you create and establish a business that's based on how much money you can make, it's usually that mindset that puts up all of these roadblocks and barriers, because the purpose and intention really isn't right, in my opinion. I don't know how you feel
100%.
about that, but whenever someone comes to me and says, oh, I really want to do this thing, and you say, okay, well, what's the reason behind it? Oh, because it's going to make X amount of money, and it's going to do this and it's going to do that. And I think they're missing the point, really, as to why businesses begin and start out. And as you said, it should be helping solve a problem or changing someone's life in some way, shape or form, which I think, is really important. So interested in your feedback on that. And if you've had any situations where that's been, the case.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And it's something that I always say to people: if you're in it just for the money, you're going to struggle. And the reality is, we know as business owners, there's stores that you have bad days. There's stormy days. There's days when things are not going well. And as a business owner, you need to be able to weather those storms and work through it. It's different to working for someone else, where you can kind of show up hungover and half get through the day and hang around and mope at your desk and you'll still get paid. As a business owner, you need to keep on operating and servicing your clients and finding new customers and clients, because if you don't, the whole thing's going to fall over. And so having that passion for what you do needs to be driving it. If you do it purely for making money, and I say this to anyone who comes to me, what is your driving factor? What are your the first thing we talk about is goals. And those goals are business and in life and recreational as well, because all of those things ladder up into running a successful business. If you need to have some business goals you're trying to achieve, you need to have some sort of family goals that you've got in your life, and whatever they may be, and then your own recreational time. And we need to make sure that they don't overlap too far, because you can't say, I want to have 20 hours a day of doing whatever I want, and also I want to earn this amount of money doing a business where I need those hours in the day in order to run the business. The things don't overlap. So you need to have that driving force, that passion you mentioned. Otherwise, you're soon going to see that things don't work out. And this is one of the other mindset factors I was getting to, is that entrepreneurial mindset, where you're constantly in the seat of, I'm driving my own destiny. I don't have a boss who's going to just make sure everything works for me. Part of the benefit of freedom is, yes, you don't have a boss telling you what to do, but the flip side of that is you've got to make things happen. So
and the responsibility is all on you, isn't it? And you've got to bring the game, whether you are hungover or feeling like crap, or there is no pause button when it's your own business. And I think that's a misconception that's out there, because, and I will say, social media has presented lots of examples of this, where there's a beautiful feed, there's beautiful videos, there's lots of things happening. You're seeing the top of that as we said before, the iceberg, but you're really not seeing everything that's happening underneath the water. And I think sometimes that sends people on a bit of a ride that they have not planned for or anticipated, and there's a big shock in the end. But one of the other things that's part of mindset, and I'd love your take on this, but you're not going to wake up each day feeling motivated. As you said, you're going to have some days where things suck. Let's just put it out there. Not every day in business is unicorns and rainbows. And so what I've been able to learn just through my own experience is it really isn't about motivation, but it's about self-discipline. And I think if you have that self-discipline, then you're not waiting on that bank of motivation to get up and action something. You have that discipline to go, you know what, no matter how I feel today, I'm still going to wake up. I'm still going to sit at my desk or at my laptop. I'm still going to get things done because I'm not relying on motivation to propel this work forward, but I'm disciplined to know that even if I'm feeling a bit flat today, shit still needs to get done. Yeah. So I'd love your take on that and your opinion, and yeah, just your thoughts on discipline versus motivation.
Yeah, that's really well said. And I think some people deal well with discipline and accountability and some people don't. And when I talk through with people about where are your strengths and weaknesses, we go through all the different aspects of running a business. And some people are good with finance, some people are good with social media, some are not good at those things. Some people are good at accountability, some are not. And so we talk about those things. And essentially, if you know that you're going to struggle in that area, you need to actually put a structure in place. And this is the same with every aspect of your business. If there's something that you're naturally talented at and naturally will perform well at, then you can get away with flying on talent. It's the same as an athlete on a sporting field. Some athletes can get by on talent alone. Some people need structures and systems put around them. So you need to establish your own disciplines and structures and put your own key performance indicators in place to say, okay, if I know I struggle with it, I need to start the discipline up of, I'm going to wake up at 6 o'clock every day and I'm going to do from this hour to this hour, I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to jump on to the next thing and I'm going to make sure I call 3 potential customers before midday each day. And if I don't tick off those things, I know I'm failing. And you need to have that accountability to yourself to say, am I meeting my KPIs or am I not? And I think it's always really important to have a group of peers around you, at least 1 or 2 peers around you who are in a similar type of situation or industry to you, where you can have those chats and you can say, you feel you're in a safe space to talk with them and see how they're tracking in their business goals.
So important.
Yeah. It is, yeah. And the same goes for having at least one mentor that you can trust who will really be able to guide you, but also hold you accountable when you're not achieving what you need to be doing, and know that you've got that person there and that it's not like you're outsourcing responsibility to them. That's important, that you don't feel like they're going to be mum or dad telling you what to do, but more so that they're going to guide you and make sure that path is on the right trajectory. And without putting some structures in place around you like that, things can little by little just go off track. And you say, oh, I don't feel like working today. I'm going to sit in my pajamas and do nothing. And that's fine. You have to be kind to yourself and you have to realize when you need breaks. But by the same token, if you say, oh, on Tuesday, I just don't feel like it, you need to have that discipline within yourself to say, on Saturday, I'm going to make up for that. Exactly. Because I know that I've missed out on doing something, and I'm going to hold myself accountable to ensure that I do it. And I'm also going to structure recreation time around it. So when the recreation time is structured into my schedule, I can do it guilt-free, happily, because I know I'm doing it for my own mental health and for my family and friends and all those things.
Love it. And I think this is where business owners sometimes get a little bit stuck, because we're either full steam ahead, 100%, or it's the complete opposite and we really put our foot on the brake and just pause. And finding the balance between being disciplined and, as you said, if you've had some time off because you're not feeling great one day, you're making it up on another day. Do you have any insights or tips around burnout and ensuring that whilst, yes, you are disciplined, that you don't take it too far to the point where you completely burn yourself out, burning it at, I think it's the both ends of the candle,
Totally.
I think's the saying. I'm
Yeah.
really bad at saying sorry. But that's one bit, particularly in the first, I would think, couple of years of business, because you're trying to tick all of these boxes and really set up the right foundations. There is this thing where we tend to go full steam ahead and we end up feeling really burnt out and then almost resentful and thinking, is this really what I want to do? So yeah, just some thoughts or insights around that from you.
Yeah. Look, I think one thing that I mentioned earlier is being kind to yourself. And part of that involves actually structuring in time for recreation and all those things. And it, it needs to be guilt-free time, like I said, because if you don't structure it in and say, I'm going to have this part of, I know that I have Tuesday evening, Thursday evening, all day Sunday are just going to be free time, and I'm going to do this and that, and go and get a massage and do all the things that I need to do to keep me sane and healthy. If you don't do it, it will catch up with you. And if you don't structure it in, A, it might not happen, but B, when you do it, you might feel guilty because you think, oh, should I be working at the moment? Should I work on that client assignment? Or should I be looking for new leads or updating my website, whatever it may be. But if it's in the schedule, it feels like it's something that you're allowed to be doing. You've given yourself permission. And that's one thing. I think the other big thing is just an assessment of value in everything you do. So quite often we can get caught up in doing low value tasks. So there's so many things. You could always be striving for perfection in your business. You're always looking for, how can I improve this? How can I improve that? You will never get it perfect. So you need to assess, what is the value in what I'm doing? Is this something I need to be doing first? The second thing is there a way for me to automate that using some type of software? Or there are so many things at our disposal these days. Or if not, can I outsource that? Can I get someone else to do that who can do it at a cheaper rate, it's a better use of their time than my time? And find those opportunities to take the lower value tasks away. And when I say lower value, it's, can I derive a greater benefit for the business from doing this thing versus someone else doing it or not doing it at all, as opposed to working on something that I'm really good at, working within my sphere of genius and being really good at something. And because otherwise you will burn out, and there's only so many hours in the day. And contrary to what many of us believe, including myself, I have to tell myself all the time, some of those hours should be sleeping.
Yeah,
And you need to make
absolutely.
sure you get sleep, because you can't perform otherwise. And
No.
yes, I think putting those structures in place around you are really important to avoid burnout.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the map looks different for everyone. So when I started out and thinking about, yeah, possibly outsourcing particular tasks, it really was trying to find my own path with that, because what you might outsource for one business might not necessarily be the right thing to do for another. And I would imagine you see this across your clients as well. It's not just a one size fits all approach for everybody. Everyone has to work that out based on time they've spent in their business, what's working well, what's maybe not working so well, and then identifying those key areas for themselves. But yeah, I don't think it's just a one sort of map for everybody that everyone, needs to follow. It's really independent.
It is. And everyone has their own skill set, and everyone has their, like I say, some people love doing the social media stuff. Some people really hate it. Some
Yeah.
people are really good with admin and filing things and doing their bookkeeping, and some people hate that, and they just don't have a skill set for it. And that's fine. We've all got areas of our brain that work better than others. And if
Yeah.
we don't use those to the best of our ability, we're putting ourselves in trouble. So I think you identify, you go through it function by function within the business, and understand which are the things that I enjoy doing and that I'm good at, and which are the things that I'm not. And you also, that should even come down to your service offerings. Perhaps there are things that you offer as a service or a product, and they might not be profitable to continue offering, because you could sell something else that is a better, more profitable use of your time.
I
Or
agree.
maybe you outsource that service offering to someone you trust and refer
Yeah.
your clients to someone else to offer that.
Love it. Absolutely agree. And you've been in business now yourself, you were saying over 4 years. Is that,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
that's around the time frame. And hindsight can be a great thing. So I think you're quite structured. And as you said, you've got both sides of the brain really functioning and working well within your business. But we all experience different things. And when we look back, think, oh, is that something I could have done a little bit differently? Is there anything that you've experienced in that hindsight that you would go, what, next time I would probably do it this way? Or would you maybe not change anything at all?
Mm. Yeah, I think one thing that I always look back in hindsight, and it's one thing that I think continued to improve over time, is just getting really clear on the clients you want to attract. So in the early days, we all feel like we just need to take on anything and everything. And yep, I can do that. Yep, I don't even need to hear anymore. Yep, I can help you. And over time, you start to realize there are certain types of clients that you really shouldn't be working with. And there are also certain tasks that you shouldn't be taking on from them as well. And you get people who you start to, over time, really identify the red flags and understand the people that are not going to be healthy for you to work with. And I know you're nodding your head in agreement.
I am nodding my head. Yep.
Yep. So we've experienced those sorts of people, and
Yeah.
you come to realize that not only is it unfair to yourself in having to deal with someone like that, but it's also unfair to your other clients because they sap all the energy out of you, and they have you doing a whole manner of things and trying to get everything for free and all those sorts of things. And it's a real negative to your really good clients who are doing exactly what is asked of them and want to have a productive, symbiotic relationship with you as a partner.
I love that. It is partnership, and that's what it's all about. It's not you and them, but it's actually working side by side, working together. And yes, the thing is, you have to experience those types of clients to identify what you do want and what you don't want. So I don't think there's any shortcuts. Unfortunately, we can't really save anyone from those experiences. It's a matter of them coming in your pathway and learning from that experience and going, okay, I can now register and see what a red flag actually looks like, because again, we use that term a lot, but unless you've experienced it, you've had that hands-on experience, sometimes you sit there and go, but what is that red flag? I don't really identify with that. So unfortunately, you do have to go through it and experience it for yourself to identify what those are. And as you said, the types of clients that you are, wanting to work with and the ones that you're not, because there's also a saying, no good deed goes unpunished. And that always comes back to me. I feel like every time you really, going all out, you're doing your very best. And sometimes, as you said, doing things maybe for free or things that are above and beyond what's included in that scope of work. And it always comes back to bite you in the ass. There is never one of those situations that don't really come back and bite you. And yeah, again, just something that you have to learn.
You do. And you'll always tell yourself, just like people who put themselves in bad relationships in their personal life, you always tell yourself, oh, this is just a one-off, it's just this time. And it always adds up to being a detriment down the track, because inevitably, if you give an inch, people take a mile. Then it keeps on going from there. And you've got to get good at saying no and understand that saying no is not a bad thing.
I love that. Absolutely love it. And we are going to chat about visibility. Of course, it is the Let's Get Visible podcast. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on the ways in which you've been able to market your business and some of these different channels that have worked and maybe haven't worked for Own Your Mark.
Yeah, look, for me, I've been really fortunate in that I've managed to establish a really good network via my clients and via my professional life over time, and just feeling like I've got a kind of a rule that treat everyone with kindness. And I think until someone does wrong by me, I'm going to always give everyone the benefit of the doubt and try to help them where I can. Don't get on the flip side, because then you've been written off. But if you're always treating people with kindness, it ends up amounting to people wanting to help you out as well. And I've been fortunate in that that's always amounted to a lot of word of mouth referrals for me in my business. And so I haven't had to do a whole heap of outward marketing in order to bring in clients. And my actual network of clients, if I drew it up on a tree, there'd be all these connections between pretty much all of them, that they've come from some other client or someone who works at a client or a sister of a client or something like that. That's been a big recurring factor. And so consequently, I haven't done bits and pieces through Instagram, through LinkedIn, and I've been involved in a lot of in-person networking events, and they're really beneficial. I'd advise people to look for those things.
Once
but one thing
COVID's
that I
over.
think that I've yeah, once it's over. And there are some interesting versions of online networking events happening that I've seen, including one I went to recently that was like a virtual meeting room on a platform called AirMeet, where everyone's
Ooh.
actually, you can sit at tables and you can go into one-on-one chat sessions and then jump out and go to the table and talk to everyone at the table. And it's quite interesting. So people are getting a bit more innovative with that, but hopefully we'll have the opportunity to do those in person again soon. But one thing that I think that I probably haven't done enough with and will be looking to in the future, and this will be with you, Doreen, is SEO.
Yeah.
and it's something that I always tell everyone I'm not an expert on SEO. I know how to write, I know how to copyright, and I know the basics of, meta tags and things like that. But certainly you need to work with an SEO expert to get those things. And it's such a powerful thing, because you think about how much everyone uses Google for everything. It's the first response when you want to know something is Google it. So getting your SEO right. And as I look to scale, that's something that I know that is needed within the business, is to work on the SEO for the website, or the new website that is in the works.
Oh,
And,
exciting.
so
I can't wait to see it. Yay. Yay.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that SEO is a really big one, I think.
Yeah, and it is integral. And I think sometimes it can be a bit of an afterthought. But as you said, when people have a question or a problem, the first place they go is to Google. And so it's like free advertising. There's no, ad budget. You don't have an on or off switch. Once you establish your presence and your visibility, it's there for the long term, which is the beauty of it. And yes, we'd definitely love to help you with your online efforts there. Can't wait to see the site when it's live. Now, you have shared lots of gold with us today, obviously, in the podcast. Is there any final tip or strategy that you think, particularly at this time when we are in another lockdown at the moment? We're both in the area of Sydney and Wollongong, and there's lots of business owners out there at the moment that I'm sure are struggling with mindset and really being able to keep things running and keep things going given our situation. Anything that you can share today that would be helpful?
Yeah, I think probably the big thing that I say to many business owners as a first step is really getting to understand your ideal client avatar. So that ideal client, who they are, and going down to the nth degree, not just settling for, I think I work with females who are 35 to 45 years old. No, that's not enough. You really need to understand who this ideal client is. Give them a name. Think about someone you actually know who is that ideal person, and go down to the detail of where do they shop? Where do they live, work, and play? What are the type of things that they are interested in? What other types of brands do they purchase? Do they take their kids to soccer on a Saturday morning? You start to really then dig into understanding, okay, this is the real person that I'm marketing to, and you speak in their language and solve problems and fears and needs that they really have. And whilst a lot of us are in tight situations at the moment, for a lot of us, it also means that we do have time that we would otherwise have been doing other things with. And this is an opportunity to really work on those things and step back and workshop this stuff and understand, okay, I need to really nail it down, get a big piece of paper and write down everything I can think about that makes up that ideal client, and what are their real internal needs. And when I say that, it's different to your external needs. It's what is the real need you're trying to fulfill. So let's say you're trying to sell, you're a videographer and you're trying to sell your videography services in a B2B instance to another company. And there's a marketing manager in that business, and you're trying to just sell how amazing a videographer you are and the specs of the camera you've got and all that sort of stuff. That might be the external need, is to provide really good videography services. But the internal need of that marketing manager on the other end might be that he just wants to look good to his boss and he doesn't want to lose his job and he doesn't want it to be a lot of work. So you've got to think about, how do I actually portray to him that I'm trustworthy, that I'm going to make this a seamless, easy transaction for him? and that I'm going to put out a really good projection so that he looks good. And you got to remember that maybe he is trying to look good. And so understanding the real needs of your customer is where the gold is in trying to sell to someone. Because if you fulfill those things in understanding them and talking to their soul rather than just talking to their wallet, you can really the marketing genius in your business.
Absolutely. And everything you've said then has really resonated. And I have found, I've never run my own business before starting Doreen Brown Consulting and Let's Get Visible. And I think sometimes when businesses do market themselves, they're marketing the service, not the solution. And people are not buying the service, they're actually buying the solution. Is it saving me time? Is it improving my presence so that I'm getting more organic traffic and calls? So I think the way in which we send out our marketing and the tone even and how we're saying what we're saying is sometimes not directed in the right way. And we should be looking at the problems we're solving rather than, as you said, the front end of that, which is the service. So really, really love that. Now, you've done something very kindly for our listeners. So you've put together a 30-minute free consultation that's offered to all our listeners who want to talk about overcoming their challenges to creating a profitable business. So I'll be popping a link to that underneath this episode. But if you want to head to it, it's ownyourmark.com.au/visible, where you can book in and get access to that 30-minute free consultation with Mark. So thank you so much for offering that, because I know there's lots of people, particularly at the moment, who would really get lots of value out of that. And as you said, now may feel like the time to put your foot on the brakes and to step back, but really it's the opposite. It's about, using this time and maximizing it, because usually when you're running a business, you don't have the time to look at things like your avatar, your marketing strategy, and all those kinds of things. Being able to offer that at this particular point in time, I think is just unreal. So thank you so much for that. I'll also be adding links to the different social media profiles for Mark, so you can reach out and connect on there as well. To wrap up, again, thank you so much for being my guest today. Again, you've been able to share so many tips and insights for our audience, and I'm sure they've got lots to take away and start working on within their business.
Doreen, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a real joy talking to you, as it always is. And really enjoyed it. So thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for giving this show a listen, and don't forget to leave your feedback and rating. If you want to learn more about me or my services, please jump on over to letsgetvisible.com.au, where you'll find show notes and links to my social media profiles so you can connect there as well. Okay, well, that's a wrap for another episode. So I'll join you next time on the Let's Get Visible podcast.